This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 1242, 6 Long-Term Savings Plans That Make Good Financial Sense, Part 1, by Jeff Rose of GoodFinancialSense.com. And I'm Dan. I am your host here on the podcast. This is where I read to you from some of the best personal finance blogs on the planet. And today I've got a post from a brand new author to the show, and I'm going to tell you more about Jeff right after I read this post. So for now, let's get right to the content as we start optimizing your life. 6 Long-Term Savings Plans That Make Good Financial Sense, Part 1, by Jeff Rose of GoodFinancialSense.com. According to a survey released by the Federal Reserve, up to 46% of American adults don't have an extra $400 to cover an emergency. While this worrisome statistic is partly due to poverty and low wages, poor spending and saving habits are also to blame. When we don't save enough money in the short term or the long term, we are bound to struggle when it comes to covering an emergency home or auto repair, unexpected medical bills, or any other financial surprises that arise. That's why everyone, and I mean everyone, needs to make saving money a priority. You might think you can't afford to, but I can assure you that you can't really afford not to either. While workers from previous generations were able to rely on pensions to cover their retirement, today's employees are largely on their own. And although Social Security is still solvent, I wouldn't count on receiving full benefits by the time you reach retirement age. Plus, we all need a certain amount of cash on hand. Cash to cover a car repair so you can make it to and from work next week. Cash to pay that medical bill so your daughter can have surgery. And cash to pay for college, help pay for a wedding, or cover myriad other financial responsibilities we all face. How much money should you save to fund your long-term goals? So, how much should you save? Years ago, it was commonplace to assume we should all save at least 10% of our incomes for retirement and the future. But nowadays, it's pretty standard to work towards saving at least 15% and hopefully more. As a financial advisor, I always tell my clients to save at least 20 to 25% of their incomes across their retirement accounts and cash savings. Saving that much might seem crazy to some people, but in my eyes, this is what you need to do to prepare yourself for the harsh realities of today's world. If you're not saving for yourself and your own future, who is? Hands down, the best way to formulate and stick with long-term financial plans is to set goals and review them frequently. I'm a big believer in having lifetime, 3-year, 1-year, and 90-day financial goals. I tend to review my 90-day goals every quarter in order to make sure I'm on track with my longer-view goals. If you're trying to boost your savings rate, creating goals you can check in with is a smart move. If you're saving 10% of your income across retirement accounts and cash and want to boost that over time, you can start by shooting for a 15% savings rate within 90 days. Within 1 year, try to shoot for 20% or 25%. An easy way to do this is to boost your work-sponsored retirement account contributions incrementally over time, say every 60 or 90 days. You may not even notice the extra percentage taken from your paycheck, but those extra funds will add up and grow your wealth in a big way. When it comes to cash savings, you'll need to take a slightly different approach. Since it's easy to squander extra money you have in your checking account, I always suggest having automatic monthly withdrawals moved over to a long-term savings account on a regular basis. By paying yourself first and making it automatic, you can grow your nest egg over time without being tempted to spend or waste your extra cash. Long-term savings plans that make good financial sense. If you're a long-term reader of this website, you already know how important your retirement savings are to your financial future. Without a properly funded retirement account, you are destined to work longer than you want and struggle financially in old age. With plenty of money invested, on the other hand, you can potentially retire early, reach your lifetime bucket list goals, and retire with less stress and more peace of mind. Beyond retirement, though, you'll need cash savings for all of life's challenges and life's expenses. Here are some awesome long-term savings plans anyone could benefit from. Long-term savings plan number 1. Pay off consumer debt. While paying down debt isn't necessarily saving, there are huge benefits that come from dumping your high-interest consumer debts for good. While nearly any debt you have should be on the chopping block, you should start by focusing on high-interest credit card debt and personal loans first, then other debts like car payments and student loans. Here's a bonus tip. If you're struggling with debt at an extremely high interest rate, look into 0% balance transfer credit cards that let you pay no interest for up to 21 months. Regardless of which debts you need to tackle, paying them off for good will help your finances tremendously. Without those monthly debt payments, you'll have more money to save and invest each month. And with more capital available to save and invest, you'll be able to grow wealth at a much faster rate. Plus, you'll avoid the real wealth killer on the table, credit card and debt interest payments you're making. Long-term savings plan number 2. Build your emergency fund. Remember how almost half of Americans can't afford a $400 emergency? Trust me, you don't want to find yourself in that camp. When an emergency hits and you don't have the money to cover it, it's easy to wind up falling behind on your other bills, or worse, taking on new debt. The best way to avoid these problems altogether is to have an emergency fund to fall back on. Most financial advisors suggest keeping 3 to 6 months of expenses on hand for emergencies, and I tend to agree. As you launch your long-term savings plans, make sure to add an emergency fund to that list. To get started, figure out how much you need to save. Then come up with a dollar figure you need to set aside every month. Lastly, make it automatic and keep saving until you reach your goal. Let's say your monthly expenses sit at around $3,000 per month. If you want to save up 3 months of expenses, $9,000, within the next 24 months, you would need to save $375 per month. Whatever your goal is, the best way to achieve it is to get started sooner rather than later. And when it comes to long-term savings plans, there are a few strategies that can beat having a fully stocked emergency fund. Long-term savings plan number 3. Hear that in tomorrow's episode. You just listened to part 1 of the post titled 6 Long-Term Savings Plans That Make Good Financial Sense by Jeff Rose of goodfinancialsense.com. And like I promised, I'm going to tell you about Jeff, our newest author, in just a moment. But first, is your Wi-Fi struggling to keep up with your streaming, your work, gaming, video calling, and more? What about all at once? When you're connected to your world by Wi-Fi, be sure it's the best. Bring your Wi-Fi up to speed with Orbi Wi-Fi 6 from NETGEAR. Orbi Wi-Fi 6 is the best and latest in Wi-Fi. It covers your entire home with the fastest Wi-Fi for uninterrupted streaming, video calling, and working and learning from home on more devices than ever before in any part of the house. It's Wi-Fi perfectly engineered. Ready for the best Wi-Fi ever? Find out what makes NETGEAR America's #1 choice for Wi-Fi at netgear.com/best Wi-Fi. That's netgear.com/best Wi-Fi. And back to the article today, Jeff Rose, the brand new author here on the show, is a certified financial planner and author of the book Soldier of Finance. He served in the Army National Guard for 9 years and is now a husband and proud father of 4. We are big fans of his work, and if you are too, you can find more from Jeff on Forbes, Business Insider, and more. And of course, come by goodfinancialsense.com to show your support. That's Good Financial and Sense, spelled C-E-N-T-S, a little play on words there, .com. All right, that's going to do it for today. I thank you as always for listening. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you back here tomorrow, where we'll finish up this post and where your optimal life awaits.